Okay, so this is going to be a Unity Basics on timers. So we had talked about this the other day, but I want to just touch base on it again and go through how we would do a timer. So let's create a project. I'm going to use more glitch the game assets. I think I have them on my desktop. Yeah. And I'm just going to do a quick little scene here, and we'll put an object in there. I'm going to make it jump using physics. So this kind of follows up on a physics example we did before. So I'm going to kind of cruise through the physics part of it really quickly, just to get to the part of where we would work on timers. So here's my glitch PNG. I'm just going to grab, I don't know, some random stuff. It doesn't really matter. Here's this thing. That looks pretty good. This thing I'm just going to stretch out to give us a ground, like this. And like I said, we did a lot of this on the physics example. So if you have any questions about really how to do some of this stuff that involves the physics, you can check that one out. But we're starting with the platform. I'm going to add a component of physics 2D, a box collider 2D. So we have a nice little box there. I'm going to drag my little guy into this thing. I'm going to add a component physics 2D, box collider, so that thing has something to collide with. And we're also going to give it a rigid body. So when I hit play, it'll drop down. I'm going to fix my camera because I hate that blue color. There we go. And now we hit play, and it's going to drop down and look really good. So I want to create a script that is going to look for the space bar. And when somebody hits space, I want this thing to jump up in the air every 5 seconds. That's the idea of what we're going to do. So I'm going to right click down here, create C# script. We'll call it jump. And I'm going to attach that to our little ghost. So kind of shrink things down on this side so I can drag my script over there. And now when I edit it, anything that the script is attached to is going to pick up these behaviors. There we go. So yeah, so inside of update, we're going to say if input dot get key down key code dot space. Oops. We are going to jump repeatedly. How's that sound? Jump repeatedly. Guess that's spelled right. Okay, so I'm going to come back to this thing in a second and change it. We're not quite done with this line, but just to get the idea of what we're going for, I'm going to code it up this way. I'm going to delete my start method so we can keep all of this stuff on the screen at once. And so yeah, here's the idea. Input.getKeyDown. So we talked about before that get key down is when you press. Get key is if you're holding it down, you'd get it repeatedly. But get key down is just once. So when we hit the space bar down, we're going to get one callback. Does it even say that right here? Yeah, there it is. So this even tells you, what's happening with get key down. We're going to jump repeatedly. So we're going to wait. We're going to start this thing up. As soon as we press space bar once, we're going to make our guy jump over and over and over again. All right, so I'm going to make a function that does that. It's of type IEnumerator. And this is because we're going to kind of not sort of, I guess we could envision it as launching it in the background. It's not exactly what's happening, but it's close enough to think about it that way. Jump repeatedly. And so this thing is going to run in the background for a while. We'll say we want it to run forever. So while 1 equals 1. So this while loop is going to continue forever, and it's never going to stop. We're going to yield return new wait for seconds, 5 seconds. All right, so this is a lot of mumbo jumbo. If you're not into coding or any of this kind of stuff, basically know that this thing that we're writing is going to just continue to repeat every 5 seconds. And if you wanted it to be every second, you would change this 5 to 1. So since this is in the basics thing, we're not really going to get into the details of how IEnumerators work. Just know that this whole piece of code here allows you to have something that repeats the entire time once it's started. And so every 5 seconds we are going to jump. And so remember from our physics example, how do we do that? We get component rigid body 2D. There we go. Oops. Dot add force new vector 2 of 0 to 100. All right. So this line right here we got from the physics example. If you want to figure more out or learn more about that, you can check it out. But basically, we're going to add a force in this direction, which is 0 in the x and 200 in the y. So we're going to push a force up. Since we have a rigid body on our object, we're able to do that. Let's look at our code. So we come down here, update. Remember, this thing is called once per frame, so 60 times a second. We're going to check and see if we have just pressed the spacebar. And if we had, we're going to call jump repeatedly. If we have not just pressed the spacebar, then we're not going to come in here and check it out. So the only difference is, this is how we normally call a function. Since we want this thing to sort of exist in the background, we're going to say start coroutine. Like that. So by calling start coroutine and by having the return type enumerator, this function can kind of run in the background. It's not technically running in the background, but easiest to understand by saying yes, it's running in the background. So now we're going to come in here. We're not going to do anything until we hit the space bar. Then we're going to start this coroutine, and then we're going to jump every 5 seconds. All right. Now, some of this code we need to clean up if we want to, because if we were hammering on the space bar, we would start a whole bunch of different coroutines that would be running all concurrently. And so we should do some logic in here to make sure that we haven't already started one, if that's kind of the functionality that we're going for. So, but this is what we want. I'm going to save it and go back, and let's see what happens. For Lucky, he jumps down. Nothing's happening. I'm going to hit the space bar. Wait 5 seconds. He jumps. Wait 5 more seconds. He jumps. And so it's going to repeatedly do this over and over and over again. And it will never stop. So there are ways to stop it, but we can talk about those later. But just as how you would get a timer going. You could also use this if you had somebody had 60 seconds to do something, or you wanted to put a clock up on the screen that would tick up every second. Then you would use a similar kind of setup, except that your time that you're waiting over here, instead of 5 seconds, you would put a 1 in there, and then you would do some stuff here about updating your timer. So that's basics of how to do timers in Unity.